People tryna say I'm only enemy. Got a code with my dogs, can get in between. I can give them life, no more energy. Amen.
What's up, everybody? We got football conference championships. We got Kansas City against Buffalo. We got Washington Commanders against the Philadelphia Eagles. We smacked a huge ticket last week. We're going to go for it again this week. JJ, how are we feeling, my man?
Feeling pretty good. There's two teams, many don't want to see make it to the Super Bowl. But, if you take the emotion out of it, we'll see what we get at the end of this video.
Oh, I know. I mean, we can just we'll talk about the Eagles game first since it's first on the slate. I mean, we can just start talking right away. Nobody wants to see the Chiefs. I mean, we've seen them in the Super Bowl like 4 times now, 3 times. I don't even know. I've lost track. That shows you why we don't want to see them in there. And this might make Bills fans insufferable if they do finally get one, but anybody but Mahomes at this point, am I right?
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So let's get into the Commanders and Eagles game because that's probably the game we have, at least in my opinion, the most to talk about because they've already played twice. It's not often you see a divisional game in the conference championship. It's hard enough for 2 teams to be good enough to make the conference championship in a pool of 4 out of 16 for both them to come from the same division. It doesn't happen very often. We get it today. And I mean, JJ, what's the things that stick out to you first when you look at this game?
I mean, you got to think about Washington's defense. I mean, complete flip in defensive philosophy first half and second half of the season. Mainly zone, but, their defensive coordinator has always been a man coverage kind of guy. So second half of the season that flipped. And you kind of seen that in the first game. It was mainly zone coverage from their defense. And then second game, it was all man coverage. So I think we're going to see a lot more man coverage. It kept the game pretty close in the first half of that second game. And then the second half of the game, it doesn't really matter because Jalen Hurts got hurt. I think what's important is what they were doing. It was kind of like a bend, don't break thing with Saquon. But I think I'll let you touch on Saquon a little bit. But I think they're going to try and shore up on that a little bit more than what they did in that second game.
Yeah, I agree. And we've already seen through 2 games of the playoffs. They're willing to adapt. I think in the first game of the playoffs against the Bucs, they were very man-heavy. And then the next week against Detroit, they were very zone-heavy. And when I say very, I'm talking like both of the metrics would have landed top 5 in each one if you looked at it against every team on the whole season. So it was pretty big discrepancies. And for a team that we saw run some of the most man coverage throughout the season, and what JJ's already touched on, they did opposite things in the 2 games against the Eagles. It's interesting to see them that willing to adapt. But then it begs the question, what are they going to do in this game? And we talked about it in the Rams game last week where we said they should run single high safety, pack the box a little bit more, limit Saquon as much as possible and dare Jalen Hurts to beat you. And if he beats you, he beats you. But we thought the Rams would be a little bit too stubborn and stay in their too high, let Saquon get those chunk plays in the run. I don't think that the Commanders are going to do the same thing. I think the Commanders are going to say, Jalen Hurts, you have to beat us. Saquon, it's not like Saquon's going to be stopped and get 40 yards, but if he only gets 90 yards, your defense did your job stopping the run game. Like that's for most running backs, it's a great game.
If he gets 120 yards, they did their job at this point, the way he's been playing. It's kind of crazy to say that.
Exactly. So it's at this point, it's, hey, Jalen Hurts, you have to beat us. And if we lose because you beat us instead of Saquon, we can live with it. We didn't have a choice. But if you lose to Saquon, it's like most of the time you're asking for it if you're letting Saquon break off multiple big runs and you never pack the box. So what does that mean for the Philly offense, JJ?
A whole lot of A.J. Brown. He is the man against man coverage. I mean, last 2 seasons, like he's at the top of the list of like every single like advanced metric you want for man coverage beaters. Just I don't care what the line is, you just take them.
Oh yeah.
and live with the results if they play man coverage, you know?
And it is worth noting, like, obviously his numbers haven't been great the last few weeks, especially in the playoffs. 2 weeks ago, he got 3 targets in a game where the Eagles didn't have to throw the ball. The only time they really tried to was because they did a fake tush push, which, by the way, had Hurts not overthrown A.J. Brown open downfield, that was a 40-yard catch. And then last week, he also didn't put up many targets or yards. He still had 7 targets. So it's not like it's not there. It's there. Like, if you're watching, you're seeing these opportunities. And now he's getting the matchup that's, if they do run single high and try and focus more on Saquon, it's perfect for him. You can't ask for much better. So A.J. Brown should go ballistic. And the only way I see he doesn't is if, okay, we're going to limit Saquon, we're bracketing A.J. Brown, and we're leaving Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert 1v1 on an island on the other side. And if you do that, Devontae Smith will cook you. And it's been the dilemma with facing the Eagles all season. But I think it's becoming a little bit more clear for defenses on which you have to pick your poison. And I think it's becoming more clear that you have to just pick the pass game as the poison in this scenario. So, yeah, I'm putting my chips on the table for A.J. Brown in this one, no doubt. I'm right there with you, JJ. But we can get to the other side of the ball, which gets a little bit more tricky because the Philadelphia Eagles defense is obviously a lot better than the Washington defense. But the Washington offense is a lot more creative. So what's sticking out on that side for you?
Yeah, I think Jaden Daniels is going to have to do a lot of creating on offense. That front seven has been playing very well throughout the entire playoffs, second half of the season in general. I think they're going to try and shut down the run. So probably going to be a lot of limiting Brian Robinson Jr. in the run game. Probably going to have to lean on Austin Eckler in the passing game would be my guess. I mean, what do you think about that?
I think the key for them, and I think they're smart enough to do this, is to keep Jaden Daniels moving as much as possible. And that doesn't necessarily mean just rush attempts. But I think the best way to kind of minimize the effect of how good that defensive line for the Eagles defense is bootlegs, play action, options, to where the defensive line always has to be second guessing where they are and what they're doing, as opposed to last week versus Stafford. It was just, hey, we're dogs. We're going to go get the quarterback, and we're just going to beat your guy to him. I don't think it's going to be as simple against Jaden Daniels. And on top of that, I think he's going to have trouble if they just try and do their normal screens, slants, dink and ducks their way down the field with like a slow, methodical offense, because the Eagles are also I think it was the second best defense in terms of EPA against the short pass. Now, I don't know how much weight that holds, considering Detroit and Tampa Bay are also third and fourth, and they absolutely put the wheels to them. So I think the Eagles defense is a little bit better, obviously. I just think that when you hire an offense coordinator to have all these trick plays in his book and see what's up his sleeve, this is the exact game that I think they're going to bring it out. They're not going to save anything for the Super Bowl. I don't think they had to use them that much in the first 2 games of the playoffs. I think in this game we're going to see the team, the coordinator, the quarterback have a lot of tricks up their sleeve to keep the defense guessing, and that's kind of what you have to do against this Eagles defense.
Yeah, I think Fangio is going to make them check the ball down, which is already what they're comfortable with. They're just going to have to turn it into an extension of the run game and just be very efficient with the touches they get during their actual run plays. But, I mean, passing, they're going to have to take some deep shots down the field to keep the defense guessing. You know, you can't just be one-dimensional with just the quick short throws as they have been doing all season. But, I mean, you got one of, if not the best deep ball passer in the game right now. And then you got Scary Terry. You got to make something shake, you know?
Here's the others. I don't remember the stats, but doesn't Terry struggle against Mitchell?
I think so.
So then if it's not him, we're looking at De'Ami Brown, Zach Ertz, and Zacchaeus.
Yep.
Yeah, Zacchaeus, he used to play for the Eagles, right? He was their previous slot receiver. So potential revenge game for him. Zach Ertz had a pretty solid week last week. He only had 28 yards, but it felt like he had like 6 catches. I mean, he's a tight end, short a shallow receiver, kind of did his job. De'Ami Brown has been absolutely insane lately, but he's on the outside, and against the Eagles, you want to target more the inside. So then we get to Zacchaeus. And I didn't even mention Austin Eckler. So we're talking about 5 guys where all their roles make sense in this offense. Do you want to try and pick your spot there? Or is it just kind of, hey, everybody's going to go get 4 catches for 40 yards?
I mean, you just got to take what the defense gives you. If they're telling you to spread the ball around, do that. I'm thinking they're going to have to go through the other role players outside of Scary Terry. But I think you have to target Scary Terry to keep that defense on their heels.
Yeah.
So I think Olamide and De'Ami Brown, they're going to have to be targeted here. I think they're going to leave them open a little bit more than the others.
De'Ami Brown's been good, hasn't he?
He has.
I don't know. It's been late. Like, it felt like everybody who hyped him up in the draft process and when he was a rookie, like, everybody just kind of gave up on him. And then you look at him in the playoffs and like, oh, he's here. Like, there's the De'Ami Brown we've been waiting for. So
yeah.
Everybody's clicking, man. But
I mean, it's what you love to see for a championship game, you know?
Oh, yeah. But Tyler Higbee was getting a lot of work last week.
He was.
I was wondering what the target was going to be with Nakobe Dean out. And, I mean, we know they used to be bad against tight ends, but then they bolstered their linebacker room. And it's not that cut and dry because Nakobe Dean wasn't always the one that was covering the tight ends. But I don't think it's a coincidence either. So that could be good for Ertz. I don't know. It's like I said, you could go any which way with this team. But we're done rambling. Let's give you at least that parlay portion of it. And we're kicking things off with the Eagles spread. We expect both offenses to kind of do their thing in this one. However, the Eagles defense is significantly better than the Washington Commanders defense. And as always, there's a lot of spreads that support this. You can see them on the screen here as well. You can pause it and read them. But, I mean, it's 6.5 points isn't enough. I think this should be similar to what the lines were last week. They were 9.5 point spreads. Some people thought even that was too low. Obviously, they were wrong. Commanders won outright. But I don't see why this should be 3 points lower unless you really think that game didn't look like an upset where you're like, oh, yeah, the Commanders were without a doubt the better team. I think it was a good game. The Commanders ended up taking themselves. So I think this spread should be more or less the same. Next up, A.J. Brown, 60-plus yards. I mean, he's hit this in every game this season except for one where he has 4 receptions. I think he's getting 4 receptions. We think they're going to focus a lot in on Saquon. Going to open things up for A.J. Brown. And lastly, we are going with Jaden Daniels to get 1 passing touchdown. Of every team that has at least 2 total touchdowns against the Eagles, all of them except for 1 have a passing touchdown. Their percentage of touchdowns that are passing touchdowns is among the highest in the league. We just need 1 from Jaden Daniels. And, I mean, their pass rate in the red zone has also gone up pretty high lately. So that's the lay for the Eagles game. All right. Now for the Chiefs and Bills game, which although the reads are probably a little less clear, I'm way more excited to watch this one. I mean, we talked about it. Nobody wants the Chiefs in this, but we know how good they are in the playoffs. We know how Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce turned on the playoffs. But we all want Josh Allen to finally get over that hump, somebody to rival Mahomes. And this is probably the best game you could ask for from an entertainment standpoint and a competitive standpoint for the entirety of the playoffs. So let's get into it. And we'll start with the Chiefs offense. The first thing that I want to bring up, JJ, is the Isaiah Pacheco-Kareem Hunt split. I mean, what's going on? Like, I thought once Pacheco came back, he would take over. Once he didn't, I just thought, okay, Andy Reid's just keeping him healthy for the playoffs. Once the playoffs start, he's going to dominate. But then you look at the rush share last week, it was 36% for Kareem Hunt, 28% for Isaiah Pacheco, and then the rest were taken up by Mahomes and some trick plays by the wide receivers. But I'm shocked that Pacheco's rush share is not higher. What do you think of that? Because I know neither of us are really that high on Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, I mean, when Andy Reid, like going into last week, talked about like he's going to keep it pretty similar, I thought he was just kind of saying that just to say it and like just get everyone up to speed with Pacheco. But I mean, it sounds like he's really sticking to that. And I mean, I haven't seen him say anything else outside of that when it comes to those running backs. So I mean, I think it's just going to be the same way throughout the entire postseason.
I mean, for once in my life, I got to say I disagree with Andy Reid, but hey, there's a reason he wins Super Bowls and not me.
Yeah.
We'll get into the passing game, though. I feel like that's what most of these people are betting on, mainly Travis Kelce. We've been targeting the interior against the Buffalo Bills all season, slot and tight ends, because they're really good on the outside. But they also returned Matt Milano, I think, 4 or 5 weeks ago, and they've been blitzing a lot more ever since. And Patrick Mahomes has just been a different beast against, like, as good as Patrick Mahomes is, he's been a monster against the blitz.
He's at his best against the blitz the entire career. I mean, it's been no different this season. If you want to blitz him, go ahead. I'm curious if they do. Like, it's very tough. I want to see if they tailor a game plan just for him compared to what they have been doing the entire, last 5-6 weeks of the season up until this week. So, I mean, what do you think about that?
I still think they're too stubborn. Like, we talked about it last week with the Ravens. We said we know that the Ravens are so good at running the ball, but the Bills like to play a light box, and they're not going to change for it. And they didn't. And we knew that was going to happen because they're stubborn. I don't see this being any different. Like, it's the same thing, just different circumstance. And I feel like it's going to kill them. At least it's going to cost them at least one touchdown in this game, I promise you. So,
and it's just a bend, don't break mentality. And I mean, that's for both defenses is bend, don't break. So I think you're right. I think they're just going to continue to blitz like they have been doing. And they're going to live with whatever Mahomes does. And I mean, that's kind of what the Ravens wanted to do every time they played KC the last 2 years. Let Mahomes pass the ball. It sounds crazy, but it's been working. It's just the offense for the Ravens just haven't stepped up in those games at all. I mean, we're not going to talk about what happened last week with the Ravens offense, but, I think they're going to work with a similar game plan here, make Mahomes throw the ball, stop everything else.
It's going to be a immovable object meets unstoppable force, because it's the Bills defense. They play in a way where they wait for you to shoot yourself in the foot. And that's exactly what the Ravens did last week. You can play a very good game against the Bills. You make one turnover, you don't convert on a fourth down, some special teams play, and suddenly everything goes the Bills' way. But that's also to the advantage of the Chiefs' offense. The Chiefs' offense takes care of the ball. Like, we make fun of Kareem Hunt because he averages 2 yards a carry. When you average 2 yards a carry, but you never fumble the ball and the quarterback never throws an interception, that means you're always in third and short. And when you're in the third and short with Patrick Mahomes, that's all you need. So then when the defense is just waiting for you to get a turnover and the offense doesn't get turnovers, which side's going to give first? I have to say, going to have to back the Chiefs offense in that scenario.
Yeah.
But one thing that I do want to bring up, because I was looking forward to seeing how this played out last week, was Hollywood Brown, when he first returned in week 16, he got 8 targets and 7 targets on 15 and 19 routes. Crazy target rate, right? I expected his route share to go up last week, and with that, I thought his target rate would stay up. His routes did not go up last week. He only went up to 23 routes, but he only got 2 targets, and neither of them were deemed catchable targets. 33.5-yard ADOT on those 2 targets. So Hollywood Brown, who I thought was going to be a huge factor in this playoff run if what they were doing those first 2 weeks remained consistent, now you have no idea what you're getting with him, and it looks like he's in more of a deep role. Which then brings us to Xavier Worthy. His usage started going up like crazy once Hollywood Brown went out as well, because it forced him out of a wide variety of roles. Now he was in a more specific role. They knew exactly how they wanted to use him. They want to get the ball in his hands and let him play make. For that reason, he had 11, 8, and 6 targets across those 3 games, and his route share has stayed up as well. That leaves us with DeAndre Hopkins, whose route share has also been going down. His targets have been going down, only 4, 4, and 1 target in those 3 games. And then that leaves us with Travis Kelce, who, if you guys don't know this, turns it up in the playoffs. We've known this for years. Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, that connection comes out more than ever in the playoffs. And against the Bills, who struggle more on the inside than they do on the outside, there's a good chance it comes out again today. And when you have a team that blitzes like the Bills do, you're probably going to pick Travis Kelce to put in those spots that they're blitzing from, give him a little hot route, and rest is you're going to see what's going to happen once that happens. So I think the 2 targets are going to be Xavier Worthy and Travis Kelce in this pass game. I'd stay away from DeAndre Hopkins, and we do not know enough about Hollywood's Brown role at this moment in time to trust him betting anything. I just rambled on for a while. JJ, is there anything that you're seeing differently or anything that you need to add on there?
I mean, the way you was rambling, I feel like you was spot on in everything I wanted to say.
Perfect.
It's almost like it wasn't even rambling, to be honest.
All right, well, we'll get to the Bills side, and to avoid me rambling, JJ, you take over from the jump. We'll start with the pass game again. Everybody cares more about the pass game, so we'll get that one going first.
Yeah, so pass game, you want to look at the Chiefs defense real quick, and then you got Trent, obviously, their elite corner, shuts down everybody. I think he sticks to the outside. Last time they played, he didn't defend Khalil Shakir, who's in the slot. They're okay with giving up stuff in the slot. And what, he had about 70 yards last game when they played.
12 targets.
12 targets, yep. Who else? Curtis Samuel, he had like 50 to 60 yards as well on like 5 receptions. So they're going to keep targeting slot. I'm not sure what Amari Cooper's role is going to be. I know he didn't get many snaps last game, and he had like personal issues leading up to the game. So I'm not sure if he goes back to what he should be getting, but I think Trent's either going to be defending both Amari Cooper and Keon Coleman. I think you lock down Keon Coleman and just kind of funnel everything to Khalil Shakir. Like we said earlier, with the Bills offense and or Bills defense is bend, don't break. Chiefs are the same way. I think they're just going to keep funneling the Khalil Shakir. Run-wise, I think they can take advantage of the run here. I think there's going to be a little bit of a 12 personnel with that offense. And I was looking at the stats. The Chiefs run a lot of dime coverage. So, 12 personnel versus dime, a lot of big bodies versus a lot of defensive backs. So, you do the math there. You look at the size difference. Should be a lot of bodies on bodies, easy blocks there, right? Decent run game. James Cook has been running very well. Just all season in general. You've seen it last week. He looks great. So I think they lean on him. They keep Chiefs offense off the field by running the ball, keep being efficient. I think he's going to get like a lot of chunk yardage. It's kind of how I would look at it. They don't want to give up anything too big, but just enough to just kind of keep the ball moving. And they're okay with that as long as they don't give up a bunch of field goals. As long as they do like give up field goals rather than touchdowns. But I think wasn't the stat you seen? Someone wasn't giving up that many field goals in general. I forget which team that was.
Aren't giving up that many field goals in general. I'll pull it up again, but yeah, because I was gonna look at Harrison Butker field goals, but
yeah,
I got excited. Usually the line's not playable, but then I checked on it now, and I think it was here. It is. This season, only 7 of 16 kickers have had at least 2 field goal attempts this season, which is not something crazy, especially considering in the playoffs so far. Oh, wait, this isn't even including playoffs. So if I include playoffs, Justin Tucker took 2 last week, and then Will Lutz the week before took only 1, and he missed it. So it's not as clean as you want it to be for a kicker prop against the Bills. I really think it just comes down to their defense is good enough where you're not really getting in scoring positions if you're not a good team.
Yeah.
But the Chiefs are a good team, so.
Yeah. So, I mean, even though that was for Chiefs offense, I think, just try and do your best to limit to field goal attempts here. I think that's what KC defense will try and do. I mean, outside of that, are you seeing anything else for this offense?
Not really. The one thing that is worth noting a little bit is the fact that Ty Johnson is taking a decent amount of route share from James Cook in the recent weeks, and he's been good in it. So, but the rush share is still being dominated by James Cook pretty heavily. And
I wouldn't be surprised if they take a deep shot on a wheel route with Ty Johnson. I would love to see that.
It's going to be interesting. It's the Chiefs defense is very unique in the fact that they run too high and they run man coverage, which in itself is unique because usually man coverage is supplemented with a single high safety. And then with those two things, they run press coverage on those receivers, which is also not as common as you would think. So it's not a defense where you look at, oh, this wide receiver has done really good the last few weeks, because then he comes into this brand new matchup where the NFL is much more matchup dependent than I'd say most other leagues. And when they come into this new matchup, it's completely foreign to them in that offensive scheme. So it does help that we've seen them play in the past, but it's also good from what we've already seen with teams against the Chiefs. The bracket coverage accompanied with the press coverage really hurts outside receivers. So Keon Coleman and Amari Cooper out of the question. But then it opens up the hell out of the middle of the field, which is why we've been targeting tight ends against them all year. I didn't really want to choose between Knox and Kincaid, so I think Shakir is the target there. And then every now and then, if you time it right, that running back can break loose on the outside. So, yeah, I think the Chiefs defense is a little bit more funneled than the Bills defense, I'd say.
Yeah, I'm have to agree. I mean, outside of that, I can't really think of anything else to cover here. I think the Bills side offense was just kind of cut and dry.
Yeah. We can talk about picking a side a little bit just because I don't want to. I don't want to pick a side.
Yeah.
And the reason why, everything in my gut is telling me this is the year Josh Allen gets over the hump. We've seen enough of the Chiefs. Like, they can go a year without it. It'll motivate them more for the next year. I'm sure they'll be there again. But then at the same time, like, dude, I've lost so many bets betting against the Chiefs when specifically the playoffs, but just in general where it feels like it's finally the day for the other team. So I don't want to pick a side. Do you think either team is truly better than the other team, JJ, or is this really just, hey, whoever comes to play comes to play?
I think it's just whoever comes to play. I think they both kind of want to do the same things. The Chiefs defense has regressed some, especially like in the run defense department. Chiefs don't have any explosive plays on offense really, so that kind of hurts them. The running back situation it's kind of weird. I think the Bills offense has just been super efficient. Now, do they continue to be efficient? I don't know. Efficiency is not something I try to rely on personally. But I don't know. I don't think the Bills stand out anywhere with their wide receivers. But, obviously Khalil Shakir is great. I think he's very underrated. But it's just something they're going to be willing to give up. So shut everybody else down. What else do you kind of do there, So I think all in all, I think it's going to be evenly matched. It's just kind of whoever shows up to me personally.
Yeah, I kind of agree because I think I give the Chiefs the edge offensively, but I also give the Buffalo the edge defensively. So, the books also kind of think it's a pick 'em. I think the Chiefs are favored by like 1.5 or 2.5 points. And I think that's just because of the Mahomes narrative. I think outside of Mahomes being so elite in the playoffs, I think they truly set this as a pick'em line. And that's what I think this is. So I'm personally staying away from picking a side. And it sounds like JJ's with me on that. So we can just get to the parlay.
Yeah.
And we kind of ruined the first bit of it. We're not picking a side in this one. We're not no over under, no spread. We don't want to force it. Our first leg is going to be Patrick Mahomes to get two passing touchdowns. The Bills allow the 6th highest percentage of touchdowns to be passing touchdowns against them in the NFL. We have Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. Why the hell am I handing it off to Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco when I have Patrick Mahomes under center? Go throw 2 passing touchdowns for us. And the other side, we're going Khalil Shakir, receiving yards. You want to target the slot receivers against the Chiefs. He's already shown that he can have success against the Chiefs. And I don't think the Chiefs are going to change up their defensive scheme. They haven't done it for anybody else. They didn't do it for the Bills last time. I don't see a reason they're going to do it today. So Khalil Shakir, go do what you've been doing all season. Otherwise, we combine all of that together and we get plus 1,164. We use the FanDuel boost on it for 20%. We get almost plus 1,400. Last week, we smacked for, I think it was plus 2,500. We're obviously not going as big today, but we don't want to force anything. And I don't think anybody would complain about plus 1,400 cash. So let's keep making money. I hope you guys enjoy the football you are watching this weekend. As always, make sure you like, subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me, follow JJ on Twitter. You can see all of that in the description below. And we will see you guys on the next show talking about the Super Bowl. That's crazy to say. It's crazy. All right. Take care, everybody. We'll see you.